Yeah, I think it's also about like, where are your people? Like I knew that Instagram at that time, there were so many social media managers and DIY business owners who were on Instagram. And that's like exactly the kind of people that I want to reach, because those are the ones who are looking to use Canva to create templates either for their clients or for their own business. So that's what I've tried to educate people in when it comes to Canva, is like, you can do amazing things in Canva in the same way that you can make ugly stuff in Photoshop. Like I've seen really ugly stuff made in Photoshop. It's not the tool, it's the person using the tool.
Hey guys, welcome back to Pro Tips, the podcast. This is the show where I chat with successful content creators. We have a conversation and I ask them to share their best tips so that you can grow as a content creator. You can grow your audience, you can create better content and make some money by talking about what you're passionate about. Today, I'll be interviewing Roger Coles. Roger runs a successful Canva template business. He creates awesome content for Instagram mostly, and he also likes to write and perform rap songs about Canva. And more on that later in the podcast. Roger has also built a solid personal brand for himself, and this has helped him land multiple brand deals, including several collaborations with Canva. I've divided my questions for Roger into 4 categories. We'll talk about how Roger runs his business in general. Then we'll chat about creating and selling Canva templates. We'll talk about being a content creator. And finally, I had some questions for Roger about how he built his personal brand. Guys, I guarantee you'll get some awesome tips from this conversation. So let's get started. All right, Roger, you are a lot of things: an entrepreneur, a template creator, a content creator, a singer, a design coach, a branding expert, a Canva expert, so many different caps. What do you say to people when you meet them at an event? Like, what's your elevator pitch?
Yeah, that has been tough. And I would say it's been tougher over the last couple of years as things have started to grow and develop. But the short bio that I give people is I help brands stand out on social media. And that sometimes comes through social media templates and designs, and sometimes it comes in the form of being a content creator.
Right. So it seems like you really, since the beginning, focus on helping people with their social media presence. What has been the evolution of your business? What came first, second, and third?
I mean, I'm not sure how much to get into here because there's a lot. I actually did not go to school for design. I was a pastor for 15 years. So I graduated from college with a degree in religion and began interning at my home church. So they needed things like flyers and brochures, and I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. So the youth pastor started showing me Photoshop. And so I started creating all these different assets that we could use just to communicate whatever was happening within the youth group. And so then I started to do a little bit more websites. I was like, oh, we need a MySpace page. This was back when MySpace was a thing, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, let me learn how to do that. But we need our MySpace page to look different. So I started learning basic CSS to kind of like customize what we were doing there. So I started to kind of like dabble into the website design side of things. And so I started doing freelance work as people started to find out that I was adding these tools to my tool belt as a way just to supplement income, because pastors don't make a whole lot of money. I don't know if you knew that, but They don't make a whole lot of money. So when my church closed in 2019, I had this like side hustle of graphic design that I had just been doing on the side. And now that needed to become like my main way of providing for my family. And so I was like, oh man, let me just start with what I have. So I was doing everything. I was doing website design. I was doing logo designs. I was doing print and digital designs. And so that was phase 1, was all of those different things. But after a while, I realized I hate building websites. Like I hate it so much. I don't want to do that. So I dropped that. And then I realized I don't really enjoy designing logos for clients. So I dropped that. I mean, you can only hear make it pop so many times before you're like, no, we ain't making it pop anymore. We're making it drop.
Can you change the color?
Yeah. Can we change the color? Yeah. And all of that stuff, it was just, I never really found my groove with creating logos for clients. And so I never really just enjoyed it. I didn't really enjoy it. And so I started focusing on creating social media designs and became a freelance contractor for a publishing company called Zondervan. And so that allowed me to create entire launch campaigns for authors and speakers and leaders who were ramping up for a book release. That was phase 2. And then I began doing more social media design work and there would often be requests for very small changes. So sometimes it was just like a line here or a line there. And the clients, they don't know how to use Photoshop. So I can't just like send them, you change it, send them PSD files, you change it. And so they were so small that it became difficult for me to even invoice those changes. Mm-hmm. And so I started creating Canva templates and educating clients so that they could tweak them on their own.
What time frame was that?
So that was probably around 2020, I think, somewhere around there. Yeah, because then I started doing work for podcasters. They often needed graphics that they could quickly just swap out the title and the guest photo. And so I was making templates for them. And so I think my timeline might be a little bit wonky here, but it was somewhere at the end of 2019 that I released a pack of Canva templates for podcasters, and I put them up on Creative Market. And little did I know that 2020 was going to bring a surge of people working from home or leaving their jobs, finally buying the gear that they wanted to start that podcast that they had been dreaming about for so long, right? And so that became phase 3, was creating Canva templates, because I saw such a boom from that initial release of those templates on Creative Market that I was like, there's definitely something here. And so, that led to being invited into the Canva Creator Program in 2020, and which led to many other amazing things that I'm sure we'll talk about.
Yeah. Okay. So you went kind of like the traditional way. Well, first you had a job. That job came to an end, started freelancing, doing client work, website that you didn't like, logo you didn't like, and then the publisher association job with also like little changes. And then you realize, well, all of these little tweaks, maybe it would be easier with a platform that anybody can use. And then came Canva, started making templates just because it was more practical, I guess. And then it became a thing when in 2020, Canva decided to really go and grow the Canva Creator Program. So Canva Creator, for those of you who don't know, is Canva's program for template designers. So when you search for templates in the Canva library, you see a variety of templates. Some are made by Canva in-house or Canva contractors, and some are made by people like Roger or Diana, who are Canva creators. So they are contributors to the Canva template library, and they design templates that they submit to Canva and can earn an income when people actually use these templates. So Roger, if I'm not mistaken, you were one of the first Canva creators, right?
Yeah. It was like October of 2020. So there were very few in the program at that point. I was bummed that I wasn't like the first 5, but I was somewhere in like maybe the first 25 to 50 or something like that. Yeah. So very early in the program.
And you've been developing this activity with Canva creators. And I guess you really got into it because you have a bunch of followers now on Canva. For those of you who don't know, you can follow creators on Canva, and Canva is actually improving these features. So it's easier to actually see what like the work of the creators you're following. More on that soon on the channel. So yeah, tell us a bit about your experience as a Canva creator.
My experience has been amazing. Like I've loved it so much. They initially invited me because I had released a pack of like notification templates. This was before they were super overdone, like all the little reminder and stuff. So I started creating kind of those like UI prompt templates that you could use, and released a pack of those. They reached out and said, hey, we like this stuff. Would you mind like joining the program? And so I joined up in October of 2020. And by January of 2021, I was like, I feel like this is the future. Like this is going to be really huge, because at that time, like I was seeing payouts that I was like, it's worth the time that I'm investing in these templates. And so I'm going to do more of that type of work. And so I started to try to get a little bit faster and find a process for creating these templates, and mood boards kind of became the way to do that. And so every now and then Canva will give us like a brief that includes different photos and fonts and ideas, inspiration. But when that's not there, you kind of have to do that on your own. So I source from Pinterest, Dribbble, Behance, all the sites that we all know and love, and kind of create mood boards for each pack of templates that I'm creating.
Okay, we're going to dive deeper into the template creation side of your business in a minute, but I want to come back, like zoom back out a little bit.
Yeah.
And come back to the business in general, because this is only one of the things you do, like design, sell templates. You're also a content creator. You're also like a branding expert. I want to know, what are your productivity hacks to allow you to find the time to do all of these things all at once?
I love productivity. It's actually like one of my content pillars, which I know we're going to talk about, but productivity is one of the things that I really love. And I'm always trying to hack my own brain, my own productivity to find what works and what doesn't work. And certain things work in one season that don't work in another season. I don't know if I just get bored of those things, so I have to move on. So 3 things that are currently helping me stay productive. The first is actually time lapses. So I will set up my phone right here, just on a tripod usually, and point it at my screen. And the thing that I love about that is because it gives you that little bit of pressure that someone is watching. Like, I can't spend too long on this because I want to be able to use this on social media. I want to be able to show people my process. And if I overthink too much and I get stuck on this one process, that doesn't really play well on social media. So I don't allow myself to overthink and get stuck. I just keep on moving through because the editing process can come later. Right now, it's time to design and it's time to brainstorm and get everything out on the page. Plus, my phone doesn't really have that much space, so I got to work quick because I'm not trying to blow up all the storage on my phone. So that's time lapses is the first one. The second one that's helping me right now is Groove. It's an app that is on-demand digital co-working space. And I found out about this because of LaShonda, who's another Canva verified expert. And the accountability of checking in after 50 minutes of work has really helped my productivity. So we do a quick FaceTime type of a call at the beginning of a session. We all go around the horn and say, this is what I'm working on for the next 50 minutes. And then the app kind of fades out. And then after 50 minutes comes back in and everybody checks back in so that they can kind of talk about the progress that they made. That's been really helpful for me. And then the third thing is very old school, but it's actually Post-it notes. I use Post-it notes pretty much every day. And I write down the 3 things that will make the biggest difference in my business. And I try to do those. If I had to give a bonus one, I know I already gave 3, but if I had to give a bonus one, I would say it's my mastermind that meets every week where we help each other with business strategies, but also just share about life stuff. So it's been helpful having business friends who understand the life of an entrepreneur.
That's very interesting. You seem to be very much into accountability with the Groove app and also your mastermind. I didn't know about Groove. It seems like a very interesting concept of checking in like every 15 minutes, kind of like when you go to class and then the bell rings and you go out and you just like go from one class to the other and you chat with your friends in the hallways. Well, it's kind of like that. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So it seems like it keeps you in the right productivity, in the right mood, but also it gives you that little bit of social contact that is desperately needed when you are working from home, and being an entrepreneur can be lonely. So yeah. I guess this is also important to have the social group where you can simply interact with other people while working.
Right. And I think it's also about like finding like what is the carrot on the stick for you, to use that metaphor. Like, what is the thing that drives you to keep moving forward? Everybody kind of has that thing and it's different for everybody. For some people, it's just like money. I just want to make as much money. For other people, it might be like their family. You know, for other people, it might need to be that like accountability of like, I said I was going to do this. And if I don't do it, they're going to know that I didn't do it because they're going to see the work, or they're not going to see the work. And so I think that's about like productivity is really just about like finding the thing that motivates you to get it done.
Yeah. That's nicely said. Do you do all of this by yourself or do you have a team to help you?
Yeah, it's just me. It's just me. Most of what you see is happening with just the guy in the red hat in this office. The only thing that I don't do is like payroll, because we've got our S Corp set up. And so we have like a CPA who helps with the financing and stuff. So that's the only thing that I don't want to touch.
Okay. So when you say payroll, is when you are invoicing clients and stuff like that?
No, payroll is just me. It's just the way that we've structured our LLC. So we actually do like payroll, as opposed to like, I just get a random invoice and it just goes straight to my bank account. Like I get paid, you know, once a month. I pay myself out of the business bank account. So I don't like to have to process any of that stuff. So we have someone that helps us with that. But other than that, yeah, it's just total solopreneur going on over here.
And is that a choice, or maybe you don't feel like your business has come to this size where it's time to delegate some of it, or why do you just fly solo?
I think part of it has been the ability to pivot so quickly, because things have changed a lot for me over the last year or two. Because when I first started, you know, it was just all design and I was just doing client work and I was just doing templates. But then more doors started to open up as a content creator, where there were more like brand partnerships and things like that. So I wouldn't even know how to onboard somebody when the business is shifting so quickly with new opportunities. I feel like they'd kind of just be like sitting there like, what do I do? Because I'd be like, I don't really know. Like I'm still trying to navigate this landscape that keeps changing.
Yeah, it makes sense. If you're still kind of building the foundation of that business, it makes sense that you figure it out first before you start delegating things or automating things.
The only thing that I would say like that I've considered is like a Pinterest manager, because I don't understand Pinterest like at all. I don't get it. I know there's like Tailwind and all these other pieces that kind of come together. So that would be like the only thing that I would probably consider, because it would help to drive traffic to my site, or it will help drive traffic to my Canva profile. I could see that being beneficial, but I'm not really there yet.
So if we kind of take a screenshot of your business in general, could you run us through the different streams of income that are coming to you via the different activities? Is that something you're comfortable sharing?
Yeah, I think that, just in the work that you did before our time together, you pretty much hit like every hub, right? There's like the template design work that I do. There's the freelance design work that I do. And then there's the personal brand stuff that I do. And I would say probably personal brand and content creator, they're kind of one and the same for me, because one leads to opportunities and partnerships. Yeah, just the same as the other one would. So I would say, like I've got the digital marketplace stuff that's happening. So that's all the templates. Then I've got Canva creators, I've got brand partnerships, and then I've got client work that all kind of work together to bring in those different streams of income.
Sounds good. Last question about your business as the bigger picture. What is your ultimate goal with that business? How do you want to contribute to the world?
I feel like so much of what drives me has been my family. Like they are my why. They are why I do what I do. They're why I'm in this office for however many hours a day making silly videos or content. But in addition to that, I hope that I'm making things easier for people, easier to find ways to be creative on social media, easier to create designs that help them communicate their message, but also easier to take the leap and put themselves out there, to be themselves and watch how it unlocks doors that they thought were once closed. Because the best professors that I had in college were able to take these complex philosophies and break them down into digestible, practical concepts. And so I hope that in some way I'm doing that for other people.
I'm sure you are, because I've watched some of your content preparing this interview, but also like your stuff sometimes pops up in my feed and I watch it. And I feel like you and I have a pretty similar way of seeing content creation. One side, we are having fun with it, which I think not many people do, not enough people do. Like a lot of people are taking themselves very seriously and create their content more like, okay, I have to create content. But it seems like every time you turn on the camera, you are having fun. And
yeah, that's the goal, man.
yes, exactly. I think you need to have fun with your business, with the things you want to teach. And this will be reflected in the final piece, the final content, and people will love it. People will feel, oh, I love learning with Roger, or I love learning with Ronnie.
Yeah.
Because they're in a good mood, they make me laugh. And yeah, your content made me laugh when you when you ask people to follow you with the face of a cat, or stuff like that, or when your face changes with a filter, like it's funny. Well, let's jump into the second part of the interview, the one where we talk about the creating and selling template business model. Okay, so we mentioned the Canva Creator project. Tell us what a day in the life of a Canva creator looks like.
So if it's a day where I know that I'm going to be creating templates, then typically I have like a curated list. So I'm always dropping ideas, which we'll talk about in a little bit, because it also applies to social media content. But there's just a running list of ideas that I have. And so if the well is dry, if you're like, I don't have any inspiration, I'm able to go to that list and go, okay, well, I already dropped a bunch of ideas here that I can use. And then that turns into research where I'm going around and looking for different types of inspiration, whether that's going to be like a color palette that inspires me, or maybe it's a font that inspires me. And I start to kind of create that mood board, put all of the pieces together. And then I've actually started to use AI a lot more in my process, because one of the things that can bog you down as a template creator is the research for copy. And you want to make these templates look like they're in use. So you don't want to just have like lorem ipsum random text that's a bunch of gibberish that doesn't help the person who might be buying these templates or downloading these templates. If it's someone like a real estate agent or someone who's a personal trainer, having content that already is in theme with the type of work or type of content that they may create it's going to save them that much more time. So now you're saving them time on the design as well as the copy and the content by just giving them some ideas. So AI has helped me with that stuff as well. So whether that be using Magic Write directly in Canva, I just need a headline that's going to make this social media post pop, or using something like Chat GPT and being able to create an entire avatar. You know, like you could say like, you are a professional fitness trainer and you are creating a social media campaign for a new course that you're launching. Give me 5 Instagram posts, give me 5 Facebook ads, whatever. And the AI is going to generate all that stuff for you. So now you don't have to worry about like, well, what do I say in the copy and the text of this template? You know, that stuff is already done, and you get to use the juice, the creative juice, to make the design look beautiful. So that's the other piece. And I've been doing a lot more collections that seem cohesive. And I think Deanna does the same thing, right? Where she does a bunch of different collections. So it's easy for the user to come to her profile and go, okay, this batch of like 15 to 20, like, yeah, man, that's my style. Because as much as we want people to understand that you can customize these templates however you want to inject your own colors, there's like some kind of barrier, I think, that if someone sees something that's a neutral palette, but their vibe and their brand is vibrant and bold and colorful, there's like a disconnect there. So being able to create a range of styles that people can go like, oh, there's very few tweaks that I'd have to make to this template pack in terms of design as well as copy. Easy. Yes. Buy now or download now. So that's kind of like how I've tried to systematize, I guess, create a process for designing templates, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And when you sit down, like, do you have like template days? Like, do you divide your week like so? Like, okay, today is my content creation day. Today is my template designer day. Is that how that works?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably not that organized. I just know that every week I want to crank out X amount of templates.
Okay.
So, you know, some days it's just, I don't know if other people have these days, but like some days the design mojo is like on fire. It's like, man, I cannot do anything wrong right now. And then like the very next day we'll be like, why do I do this for a living? Like, I'm so bad at this. So I kind of try to like base when that happens based on like what's going on, like for whatever reason that day. If it's just hitting, then I'm going to lean into it. If it's not, then I move on to something else, because I can tell I may spend 6 hours in this day, and at the end of the day, I'm going to feel like discouraged because I don't have anything to show for the amount of time that I put in. So I'd rather shift my efforts to something that I know I can be productive in. So maybe it turns into like I'm going to write email sequences today or something like that. You just shift your energy where it needs to go.
So you're flexible with your schedule.
Yep.
All right, cool. What are some of your inspiration as a graphic designer?
I would say this one's hard for me. Like people ask me this question a lot, and it's hard for me to like say like specific graphic designers, because I feel like I'm more inspired by people who are not necessarily graphic designers, but just artists in the more general sense, right? So guys like Harry Mack, he's someone that I consider to be an artist who's doing things differently than anyone else. He's probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, freestyle rapper of all time. He does all of these. Have you seen this guy?
Yeah,
you know,
TikTok,
yeah. So he's like big on YouTube, big on TikTok, and you know, he gets these random words from people and he'll do it live. And then he creates this entire masterpiece out of that.
You know I'm ready to blaze ya. I see you got the headphones made by Razer. Y'all know I be running things something like the mayor. I'm the lifesaver.
And so he's doing things differently than the way other people have. Even like original freestyle rappers in the past, they weren't really doing this kind of thing. There's another guy that I really like. His name's Pigeon John. He's also a rapper. He was bigger back in like the 2000s. And the reason I like him is because he's a rapper who would say things like, oh, shoot, I'm cute. Gotta believe it because no one's really going to. And that's like the antithesis of what you would hear most rappers saying, but like, oh, I got the money, got the girls, got the car, got the fame. And he's like kind of
humble.
Yeah, it's like this humble rap, you know, where it's almost like self-deprecating humor. You're like, that's not normal to hear from a rapper, because that style and that genre is not about that.
No, but there is an emerging genre about this, like Little Dicky, like this type of guy.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's why I like Pigeon John.
Older guy as a Canadian. His name is John Lajoie, and he's also rapping like, I'm a regular, everyday, normal guy. Like it's,
yeah.
If you don't know him, like look him up. Like
I'll have to check him out.
normal guy. Cool. But
So it's like people who are doing things differently than others, people who are just thinking outside the box from like an artistic perspective. Like Karen X Chang is another one that she became huge because of like these little Swifter videos that she would do. So if you didn't have a drone that could get high up off the ground, she was like using the Swiffer as a way to like, you'd add all these extensions, just stick your phone on the end, and then she's getting these really cool aerial shots. So, and then I would say if I had to like list some designers, I would probably say people like Abby Connick. I really like her style. She's very funny. She has a YouTube channel and she does a lot of like bold, vibrant designs, but also educates designers on her process. Olivia Herrick, I really like her stuff too. She's very encouraging in the quotes that she does, but her style is also very like colorful. And then there's someone named Ash Murray from Studio Arcadia. I really like her style, like super elegant, classy. And so if I had to name designers, I'd name those three.
Yep. My question was not specifically about graphic designers, but what are some sources of inspiration for your design? So you mentioned like could be rappers, could be content creators, or graphic artists as such. For example, me, like when I'm walking in the streets of Barcelona, I so much street art in these streets. Like I often like find myself taking a photo of a door full of stickers or graffiti or like stuff like that. Like raw street art for me is a real source of inspiration. I'm not a graphic designer. I don't design much, but it could be things like that. Or it could be, I don't know, like somebody's Instagram feed or somebody's TikTok presence. Or like it depends like that. Like lots of different places where there are actually inspiration for graphic designers nowadays.
Yeah, you can get it from anywhere. You just have to open up your eyes.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's talk about the tools you use for creating these templates. What are 3 tools you couldn't live without when making templates, when designing templates?
I mean, Canva, obviously, that's one of them. But then I would say the second one is my tablet. So I just have like this little tablet here. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
Right there. And I love it so much because it has really saved my wrist. I've noticed a big difference in like the time that I'm sitting at a computer and having to use that mouse. There's something about holding it like this that has made such a difference in like carpal tunnel for me. And then I would say it's not really a design tool, but I use it every day. And it's Spotify. Like I just always have to have music that's playing, and I can change the music based on the style of design that I'm doing. So if I want to go 80s, I'm listening to like some 80s music or whatever. If it's more, if it's like thinking work where I need to like actually think about words, and I just do some lo-fi music or something that is a little bit more focus oriented. So those 3 things I use every single day.
Okay. What I've seen though on your Instagram is where pieces of content where you do these time lapses that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Is that something you do every time you design templates?
Every time. Yeah. Because you never know. Sometimes I do it and there's nothing that comes from it. It was just a bad design session and I just delete that file from my phone.
Yeah.
But I like being able to show the behind the scenes and the process that a designer goes through from start to finish, because it can be intimidating looking at a blank canvas and going from like absolutely nothing to something. So being able to glean from others and kind of see their process, I think is inspiring.
Yeah. Are these time lapses something that your audience is getting used to and is asking for? Is this particular type of content popular on your socials?
Yeah, I would say like looking at just the analytics of it, I've been surprised. And sometimes it depends on the Reels cover, because my friend Natasha talks a lot about like the profile experience. So you're getting new traffic to your Instagram, and what kind of bingeable content do you have available for people? So you want to make it easy for them to see. But let me just look at the analytics. I did a video about like layers in Canva. It was like a funny song about using layers.
Yep.
That one had like 20,000 views. But then I did a process one where I just created a bunch of logos, and that had 26,000 views. And then there's another one in here somewhere, another logo one, which was 24,000 views. So I think people are getting used to seeing like those design with me posts. Those are probably going to fade at some point because you're not really designing with that person. You're just like watching that person design. So it's not really the same, but I have been surprised. So I've been testing those things out to see if it's something that people are gravitating towards. And so far, it doesn't really seem like the audience is tuning out. It seems like they're into it. Yeah.
That's great. That's a very original type of content, I guess. Something I've wondered sometimes, like, is this something people would enjoy? Just not a time lapse, but mostly like maybe an hour-long video of just you doing stuff in Canva, like designing a website, but it's not going to be that edited. It's just going to be maybe a cool music and you working, maybe speed up the workflow a bit, but not too much. Something to try out.
Yeah, I've thought about that. I've thought about going live because I've seen a few content creators and YouTubers do like, I'm going to design a logo in 5 minutes. And that is like stressful. Like, I feel like I would just be sweating profusely. But it's intrigued me enough to be like, I kind of want to try it. Like, I kind of want to do like a video like that, where it's like, maybe you try to do 20 logos in an hour or something like that, 20 logos in 30 minutes. So I do think there's probably a challenge somewhere like looming ahead for me that I'll probably try, but I can't guarantee it will go well. We'll see.
Yeah. You said the word that made me think of an actual series like challenge. I don't know if you've been invited to do a Canva challenge. I've done one. So that's a series that Canva was trying out when I was still working at Canva. It's called Canva Challenge. They have a couple on their YouTube channel. And so they have two people and they give them a brief. None of the people know beforehand like what the brief is going to be. And then they have usually 5 minutes to design it. And I was competing against Diana. He had to design like a missing pet flyer and for a lizard. And yeah, that was stressful because you have 5 minutes and then and you start designing and you're one against the other and you're filming yourself. The other is filming him or herself. And it's interesting because of the time stress.
Who won? I got to know who won that.
Well, it was open for votes in the comments, so we don't know. But
if you had to say who the winner was, who would you say?
I don't know. I think like both received a decent amount of votes. And I know it was one of the most popular Canva challenges on Canva's channel. It was also one of the first. And yeah, we had fun doing it. So we might like come back to, but this time on our channel with a similar concept of Canva challenges. That might be fun.
Yeah, I love that idea.
All right, so let me move on here with my questions about templates. So you already mentioned that you also sell these templates as packs on other platforms. Can you tell us a bit more about how you leverage the templates you create on other platforms than Canva and the Canva Creator Program?
Yeah, I would say like currently it's not something that I'm doing a lot of. It's something that I used to do more of. Right now, when I create templates, they just go straight into Canva's library. Part of the reason for that is because I'm submitting so many free templates to Canva now as a Canva creator that it doesn't really make sense for me to sell them on a site like Creative Market or Etsy, because people are going to go, hey, I saw this same thing over on Canva and it was free. Why do I have to pay, $10, $15 for it over here? So I just haven't figured out the right strategy. But what I've seen other creators doing is that they'll create an entire pack of templates that they'll use on Creative Market. And then from that batch, they'll submit maybe 10 of those to the Canva creator library. I think that's probably like a better strategy, because then you still have to buy this full pack to get everything that this designer had to offer. So I'm not quite there yet, but it's mainly just because I don't really enjoy packaging everything up. Like the stress of putting everything together and making all the different mock-ups to make it look beautiful. I just like don't have the extra time. So I have plenty of the templates. I just don't have the extra time to like package them up in a way that is going to stand out on these marketplaces. So
yeah, I guess because for every pack, you need to write a description. You need to, like you said, like create mock-ups, covers and stuff like that, right?
Yep, exactly. And all that stuff really makes a difference in how they perform and how they sell. So if you don't, if you're just like, let me just throw them on there, there's a good chance that unless they are really unique, they're not going to stand out or perform well. Or somewhat, I found also that these sites like Creative Market, it really depends on the promotional designs that you've created, because they might like it enough to plug it in their email list. So if it doesn't look good, even if the designs are beautiful, but the packaging isn't, then they're probably not going to push it.
Yeah, it's like YouTube and the thumbnails. Like if you don't have a really good thumbnail, you could have the best video in the world, it might go unnoticed. Whereas on the Canva creator program, you just design, publish, and then Canva promotes for you, or
exactly
serves it to the right people with the right keywords. There's still a bunch of tags and stuff to include in your Canva template, right?
Yep, there are, but they've made that a little bit easier for us as well, giving us some suggestions that we might use if we're completely lost. So that helps too.
All right, cool. But I have one last question about the template side of the business. What are 3 mistakes you've made as a template designer, and how can people avoid them?
Okay, the first one is probably the biggest one, and it's not clearly labeling and organizing my templates or assets. I experiment so much in Canva that I'll often just hit that purple create a design button and just start messing with stuff. And then if you were to search for untitled design right now in my Canva, I don't even know how many there'd be, like hundreds, if not thousands. So that makes it difficult then if you did try and experiment with something and you didn't add that to a folder or try to find a way to keep it organized, it's a nightmare trying to go back and find that stuff. So I'm getting better at that. So now I just, every time I'm going to create a design, I go to a folder and then hit create a design from within that folder. So everything's nested where it should be. So that's one. The second one I would say is just overthinking and spending way too much time on a template. That one really has hurt me a lot. And so I found that if you can just like set a time limit, using my time lapse thing has been helpful for that, where I say like, I have 25 minutes to finish 5 templates or whatever. That helps me to not overthink it. And again, I can always come back after the fact and then do some editing, but I don't let that interfere with my brainstorming process. And then the third one I would say is comparing myself to other designers. I think that's a mistake that many of us can make. And especially if you do it at the start of your day, you get on Instagram or you start looking at what everybody else has pushed out over the last 24 hours, it can really paralyze you from creating something unique and being excited about the work, because instead you're going, I'll never be that good. Man, their stuff is so amazing. My stuff looks like poo. Like that's not going to inspire you to sit down and create your work or to ship the work, because you're going to constantly second guess it and compare it to how good these other people's designs looked. So comparing myself to others, that's been a mistake of mine. And the way that I've tried to overcome that is save the inspiration, save the research for a time where you can afford to do that stuff. Sometimes it's better to create before you consume. And so I've tried to adapt that mindset.
And sometimes also it's the stuff that comes out more spontaneously that performs best at the end. Like it happened to me with content as well. Sometimes I spend too much time preparing and I deliver and it's okay. But sometimes I'm just like, oh, I'm not ready, and then hit record. And then I start and then I finish a tutorial. That was complete garbage. And then it's a banger.
Yes, it happens so much.
You never know. So yeah, less is not more when it comes to content creation or product or graphic design in terms of shipping templates. More is more, I guess. Maybe in terms of design per se, less is more in terms of what you put on your page. But in terms of creating and building a business around content, more is always better. All right, cool. I'm done with the part where we talk about templates. Just maybe to wrap it up, like how much of your business does that represent in terms of percentage? Like how much of your total sources of revenue does that business represent?
I mean, I won't speak to like percentage of income. I like to think more in terms of like my energy, like how much energy am I putting towards different things? And I would say that like creating templates is probably like 50% of where my energy goes.
Okay.
And then it's divvied up from there. So yeah.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So the third part of this interview is going to be about you, the content creator. Okay. So that's where I have the most similarities and stuff that I would really love to talk about here. You have a pretty strong Instagram game. At My Social Designer, you create a lot of reels, a lot of videos, some carousels. Is that your main social hub?
It is. Yeah. I started my Instagram in 2020, and it was really before like TikTok blew up. Like I think it was a thing. It used to be called something else. It's funny because I had it on my phone. So when I downloaded TikTok, like I logged into whatever that old thing was. I didn't have to create a new account. But TikTok in 2021, when everybody was like locked down, there was nothing to do. That's where TikTok really started to take off. So I was on Instagram and then just focused all my efforts there. And all the people that I was learning from were on Instagram, teaching me how to create content and like the fundamentals of getting your content strategy in place. So I just dove in. And at the same time, Instagram had just launched Instagram Reels. So it gave me an opportunity to create these funny videos, which I've created since I was 10 years old,
Okay, so that's something that we need to dig deeper. So you kind of answered the question already. Why did you choose Instagram? So I'm going to follow up with how should people go about picking the right platform for them?
Yeah, I think it's also about like, where are your people? Like I knew that Instagram at that time, there were so many social media managers and DIY business owners who were on Instagram. And that's like exactly the kind of people that I want to reach, because those are the ones who are looking to use Canva to create templates either for their clients or for their own business. So I think it's about having your audience in mind and being like, where are these people? In the same way that if you were set up a brick and mortar, like you want to think about whatever product you're selling, do the people in this region care about that product? And if not, maybe you got to find a different location.
Yeah, definitely. And why did you start creating content in the first place? Why did you decide to start like doing this edutainment kind of content about Canva? What's the reason? You were designing your templates. Like, did you want something new? What was the main reason?
I think I was just talking about the things that I love and the things that I use every day. I knew that my content pillars were going to be around content creation, social media. Canva was going to be one of those because it was something that was so crucial to what I do, as well as educating people in Canva. It helps you to then, like, they can use your templates because now they understand how to use Canva. So they understand how to use your templates. So I feel like offering templates without the education piece is like you're missing something here. You kind of want to offer both so that they can maximize the things that you're creating for them. So yeah, does that answer the question? I don't know.
Yeah. So it was originally to kind of support the template business. You wanted to provide whoever was using your template with, okay, this is the Canva template and this is how you use Canva. So it was kind of like one goes with the other, right?
Yeah, I would say it's part of that, but it also was just, like I said, like talking about the things that I love. And I found like this camaraderie with other people who were also obsessed with Canva and used it every day. I mean, I spend hours in Canva every day, sometimes discovering something for the first time. And I'm so excited about it. I'm like, yo, you got to find out, you need to know about this thing because I just found it for myself. So I think it was just like sharing in the excitement of this product that I love. And then when I would post about that, I found that other people also, it resonated with them. They were like, I love Canva too. I'm so obsessed with it. And then on the flip side, you'd have people who were like so resistant to it. Like people who have been in the design industry for years would be like, oh yeah, Canva is not for professional designers. And I always just like scratched my head at that. And I was like, I just don't understand that because I've been designing with all of the standard tools that, you know, everybody uses for years, but I'm also using Canva and I don't look down on it at all. If anything, it helps me to be even more versatile in the things that I'm creating for a client. So to me, it's not about the tool, it's about the person using the tool. You know, if you watch these yo-yo masters and like I could have that same yo-yo and all I could do is like walk the dog. But in the hands of someone who knows what they're doing, they're like doing the cradle and like swinging it around, whatever. It's about like how you use the tool. And so that's what I've tried to educate people in when it comes to Canva is like, you can do amazing things in Canva in the same way that you can make ugly stuff in Photoshop. Like I've seen really ugly stuff made in Photoshop. It's not the tool, it's the person using the tool.
Yeah. And I've been practicing my yo-yo skills a while back. I know what you mean with like the cradle and walk the dog and around the world. I know all of these tricks. Yeah. And it's very true what you're saying. And I kind of feel the same with AI, ChatGPT, Midjourney, all of these generative AI tools at the moment. There are people, a lot of people who are kind of afraid of them. And they're kind of like saying, no, this is dangerous. This is copyright infringement. This is that. But really, it's what it is about. It's about a tool, one more tool. Yes, it's a very powerful tool. Yes, it's a scary tool in the sense that, okay, maybe this is developing some sort of intelligence, but it doesn't prevent it from being a tool. And right now we are controlling these tools. They're not controlling us, even though some people might think like this might come and doomsday and apocalypse and all of that stuff. But yeah, a lot of people are just like denegating or denying the fact that AI is a super powerful way of boosting your productivity right now.
Yeah.
And every time I answer the comments on our channel, I need to deal with some of these type of comments. And yeah, it's not easy, but I guess every new thing, every new technology has its bunch of people who are kind of like reluctant to it. So
yeah, you have people who are like the early adopters who are like, heck yeah, I'm all in. And then you have other people that might have some questions and then other people who might be very resistant to it. And I feel the same way about AI. Like there's no way it's going away. Like it's here now. You know, there's no putting that back in the, like when you squeeze toothpaste, it's out. Like you ain't putting that back in the tube. And that's how I feel about AI. So how can we educate people to maximize it and use it in a productive way for their business? I think that you're probably doing a good job of that, educating your audience when those questions pop up on YouTube.
We do our best. Like we have like noticed this new content opportunity. I talked about this with Robson in a previous episode of Pro Tips about like using AI for your business and the content opportunity on YouTube, because YouTube is a strange beast. Like sometimes you will create something that works and it will like explode your channel, you will double your views, double your revenue, everything just like is heaven at some point. And then a couple of months later, it goes back down and it goes by wave like so. And so we were lucky enough to jump on the wave early enough to catch it, and it pushed our channel up. And now that's where we are. We've been like surfing on that AI wave without like moving away from Canva. We just developed both kind of expertise on the channel. And this has been working very well for us.
Yeah,
So,
I love that, man. So smart too.
thank you. And it's something that genuinely passionated me as well. Like it's very hard to create content consistently about something you're not passionate about. And you said that, like you said, I just wanted to share stuff I was passionate about. And when you said that, it reminded me of my early days with my Facebook group about Canva, like just sharing the stuff I discovered in Canva. And everybody was like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Like, I love Canva. And yeah, so that's very important. Like if you do something that you really enjoy doing, share that with the world. And there's so many opportunities to monetize it later on that you shouldn't even think about this in the first place. Just do the stuff that you like, share it with your audience, start there, and the money will follow some way or another, because these social media platforms have a bunch of ways to be monetized.
I agree. Well said.
Thank you. Let's continue our list of questions here. I have more. What would be your top 3 tips for someone who decides to start becoming a content creator? Like there's so much content already. Where should people start?
I would say for me, the first thing I did was map out content pillars and create content around them. It doesn't mean that they're not going to change over time, but it gives you a starting point. So if you look at my Instagram, everything that you're seeing represents one of the content pillars that are in my content pillars. So it's creativity. I'm talking about social media. Sometimes I talk about productivity. Obviously, Canva is a really big one. And then I think that your superpower is the thing that makes you unique. So for me, a lot of the content, I'm injecting humor or I'm injecting music into whatever that thing is. And that's because that's just who I am. That's the way that I'm wired. Because the content by itself, you can find from anybody. You can find a lot of the content that I'm sharing from any other content creator, but it's the personality that I'm injecting into the content that's resonating with my audience. It's also attracting the type of people that I would want to work with, other brands that I would like to partner with, because they see, I like this guy's vibe. That was like one of the comments I got most when I started my, I love your energy. I love your vibe. And I was like, well, then you're in the right place. And one of the biggest compliments to me is when you see someone in your notifications that go, like this post, like this post, like this post, followed, because that means that person like binged the content, was like, I really like this guy's stuff. And they liked it enough to hit follow. So I think like mapping out your content pillars, but also injecting like your personality into those content pillars. That was step 1 for me. Step 2 is the ABCs. Always be curating. Always be looking for content in the same way that you're walking around and you're seeing inspiration, wall art and stuff like that, and taking pictures. That as a content creator, you can never do too much of that. So your camera rolls probably need to get organized, have a folder or something like that for inspiration, but always be cataloging. And then I use Notion to track like any ideas that come to me. I've got the Notion app on my phone, as well as if I'm at my desktop, I can just punch it in here. So any idea that comes to me, whether it's middle of the night or whatever, I immediately write that thing down. Otherwise, it's gone in the morning. Oh, I had this brilliant idea last night, but I can't remember what it was. Like that's painful. So always be curating, always be collecting ideas, inspiration. You can set up folders on your Instagram, collections, right? So anytime you hit save a post, don't just hit save and then add it to a collection. So I have like things like inspiration. I have things like Canva tips, design, all these different folders that when it comes time to brainstorm, now I've got a well that I can pull on. And then number 3 is find the tools that help you do it the fastest. So that may be if you're creating carousels, that you create carousel templates, or if you're doing videos and you're editing, that you find something like ScreenFlow to do your screen tutorial, screencast from your computer, or you use, InShot or CapCut. Those are the 3 things that I think have helped me to create as much content as I have over the last couple of years.
Very powerful 3 tips. The ABCs, I didn't know this acronym, ABCs, always be curating, always be collecting. This is super important. I've watched a piece of content at some point that was teaching content creators like us to never consume content passively. Even if it's like late at night, you're like slouched on the couch and you just want to just relax and watch TikTok. I do that, but then I see something, oh, this is good in that collection. And you're never consuming passively because this time, like there is very little friction to organizing your content, just like at least organizing. Every social media platform, be it YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, will allow you to create collections and save these posts into these collections. Then obviously you need to come back to the collections and organize them in your Canva mood board or your Canva whiteboard and start thinking in terms of content pillars. Where does that fit? So that's really cool. I want to bounce back on something else you said about injecting your personality. So that is the last bit of the interview about personal brand, which is coming very soon. We are going to talk about this because I think this is something you have done wonderfully, like creating that personal brand for yourself that really appeals to your audience, but also to brands that might want to consider working with you. So we'll get there in a second. But before that, I want to wrap up these questions about content creation. What has been the impact of that content? What's the ROI of content creation for your business?
The ROI has been something that I never really considered myself to be an influencer. It was never my goal was to be in that category. I just wanted to create content that I thought would be helpful for my audience. But what started happening is that I'm talking about the products and the services that I love, and then it gets the attention of those people. So for instance, you may all see in my videos a little timer that's always running in my time lapse. I can't tell you how many questions I've gotten about that. So I, tagged the person who created, the developer who created that. And then they jumped into my DMs and, then there's like this conversation that starts about maybe partnering or collaborating together in some way. But I'm just talking about the tools that I use and that I love, and that opens up doors. So I think that that's become the ROI that I did not expect, was the brand partnerships and collaborations that have come from just like talking about the stuff I use all the time.
Do you sometimes poke the bear? Like, do you reach out to brands? Do you tag them on purpose in some of your content because you want to trigger these brand deals?
It's not really been like a strategy of mine. I mean, probably the closest, like I want Post-its. I want to work with Post-its because I love them and I use them every day. Like if I'm doing something at my desk and it makes sense to tag whatever's here, like I have like the Rodecaster or the Rodecaster Pro here, maybe tag Shure or something like that. So if it's like an office workspace thing, maybe I'll tag them, but I can't say that I've like intentionally tried to poke the bear. It's just like, these are the things that I love. Let me tag them. And sometimes they use them in their stories or whatever, it's just user generated content for them. And then sometimes it does turn into a brand partnership.
Do you receive a lot of brand emails about collaborating?
There's been more in the last 6 months probably than ever before, but I wouldn't say it's like a weekly thing for me. It's more like maybe I get like one a month that kind of pops up. Like I just did one of my first brand partnerships with someone that was not Canva, because they saw the content that I create and it made sense with the things that they do. So that was one that I didn't tag them. It wasn't something that, it was actually a software that I had used before, but it wasn't something that I ever considered like doing a brand partnership with them. But they reached out to me and they were like, hey, do you want to do this? I was like, let me dig into the software to make sure it's something I would actually use. And it was. And so I felt like that partnership made sense.
Yeah. And it's always important. Like, let's remind that to our viewers that if you are at that point where brands are reaching out to you, be very careful of not diluting your brand by accepting whatever opportunity comes your way. Because once you get to a certain size of an audience, like we receive on average 2 to 3 emails per day about brand deals, and like 95% of them is straight deleted. Like I just look at the title. Sometimes I don't even open them because it's the same brand again and again, or the email address is weird or whatever. So straight to the bin. But sometimes you have good opportunities. And when you have these maybe worth my time kind of opportunities, you need to dig into the offer, the actual product or service that the brand wants you to promote. And if it doesn't fit, your audience, your channel, or your personality, or even your ethics, just don't do it. Don't be attracted by the shiny pot of gold. Yeah, just don't dilute your brand. It's not worth it at the end of the day.
Yeah, Ronnie, that's so good, man. I feel like everything that you just said is like exactly where my heart is at. Like, I love it. I loved everything you said.
Great. Well, I think it's important to say that to our viewers who might want to become content creators, because for some, it might be the ultimate goal. Yeah, I want to be an influencer. I've seen this map of the world where the question was asked, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And most of Latin America is like influencer.
Interesting.
Why? Like, why do you want to be an influencer? Most people would say, because I can make money by posting on Instagram or stuff like that. Then you're living like billboard, basically.
Yeah.
So, yeah, be very careful, build your brand, maintain a certain, I would say, integrity with that brand, because this is your asset. And if you accept whatever, it's not going to work for very long.
Yeah. And your audience will very quickly go like, oh, this doesn't make sense at all. Like, I don't even get why he's serving or she's serving this up to me, because it doesn't make sense for their audience. So I also think about that is like, maybe this is something that I personally like, but if it doesn't make sense for my audience, like, why would I push it to them? You know what I mean? Then it's just going to feel like I'm peddling this product because I got paid, and I care more about serving my audience, and you build that trust with them. They know anything that you're talking about is like, it's coming from a place because you think it will help them. And I think that's important.
Yeah, definitely. All right. One more question about content creation. Content creation could be very time consuming, and especially for people like you, solopreneur, who have to manage everything by themselves. What would be your best 3 tips to create content faster?
I think that it's everything that we've talked about. I'd probably just echo the exact same 3 that I gave for content tips, that when you have your content pillars already set up, like, so for instance, I have like my calendar mapped out and I have the different categories of each one. And then I might write 5 ideas down under each one of those pillars. And then there's also the recipe of, is this going to be educational? Is it going to be entertaining? Or is it going to be encouraging? And then you also have the other filter of like, well, what format is this going to be? Is it going to be a carousel? Is it going to be a reel? Is it just going to be a quick story? So I try to find like kind of the buckets for where that content fits. But just having the content pillars saves me so much time, because I'm not worried about creating content about everything. I'm only concerned about creating content around these 5 things. So I think that will speed up your workflow also. And then, like I said, just always having a running list of things that you can go to for when that well is empty. I feel like I'm probably just going to keep repeating that, because my process would be the same for both of those questions.
Okay, good. Yeah, but these are very like foundational tips that I think I also agree that every content creator should follow, like a running list. Because at the end of the day, one question I receive all the time when I say I'm a YouTuber, I talk about Canva. People say like, but do you still find stuff to talk about? Like, you've been doing this for years. Like, how do you keep finding new inspiration, like in new topics? Well, the answer is consume a lot of content, actively consume, and then curate list of things you want to talk about. There's always something new coming up. So yeah, talk about that. But if you don't keep track of everything, then yeah, you start your day in front of a blank page, and then there's a temptation of just using AI to create garbage content, which we don't want to do. And the other thing is that you spend most of your day just trying to figure out the next piece of content, which is not great either in terms of productivity. All right. Very good.
I would like to add like one thing that I find that has helped me personally, and it's just because of the way that I'm wired, is that I actually need time to play as a content creator. So sometimes that feels super like the opposite of being productive. Like, playing doesn't equal being productive. And yet for me, somehow it does, because the pieces of content that have popped off the most for me have been because I was just playing around. So it may be like, I have an idea of something that I would like to see happen in Canva. So I just did a video about creating progress bars in Canva. Yep. I'm not sure if you saw that one.
Yeah, I saw that.
That video performed pretty well for me, but it came from me just being, I wonder if I can. And I gave myself the freedom to spend time trying a whole bunch of stuff in Canva. Now, if I had sat down and said, this is time for me to do content batching, then I would just be like cranking out the content, and I wouldn't have given myself the freedom to play with a possible outcome of 0. But because I gave myself that freedom, I ended up creating a piece of content that did perform well. So it's almost like you have to be intentional with your playtime, I guess you could say, where it's like, I'm structuring this knowing that like I have work to do, but I'm gonna play for an hour just to see what comes out.
This is work. This is innovation. This is where your mind starts wandering and trying things out, especially with Canva. Like I do that as well. Like sometimes I would just give myself some time, and we do it with our team as well. We have a team of 5 people helping us, and that includes 2 video editors, 2 graphic designers. And we give our team a certain amount of hours per week to just play with their tools. So my video editors, I would tell them like, okay, so whenever you can this week, try to take 2 to 3 hours to consume content, to try new features in Premiere or in Canva that you don't use very often. Just see how they work. And that really refreshes their creativity. And the next tutorial comes with a new stuff, like new animation, new technique that they use that is awesome. And that's the direct result of that playtime. And it is very important. Otherwise, first, it gets boring. Second, you get kind of like, you're missing the point. Like there is a jet lag between what the product can do and what you're teaching. You need to be aware of the latest functionalities, the latest trends. So yeah, that's a very important part of being a creative person, I guess.
Yeah, I love what you said too about how it can get boring. I feel like the episodes when I was a kid, I don't know if you remember these, but there would be like shows that you loved, and the whole episode was like a flashback episode where they're just showing you clips of like old episodes, and but they make it look like the cast like, remember that one time when we did blah blah blah, and it's like blah, 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 blah. I'm like, man, it's a waste of an episode. Like sometimes I feel like content creators kind of can do that also if they don't give themselves the room to play. Then you kind of just go like, I don't know, let's just throw this out there because I don't have anything else. Like it might be better to either just like take a pause, maybe don't push anything out if you got nothing, or take some time to play.
Yeah, play is important. All right, let's move into the last bit of the interview. I kept the best piece for the end. I'm like that when I eat a cake. I always keep the best part for the last bite. All right, personal branding, building a personal brand. I think you did that wonderfully. I'm very fond of the topic of personal branding. That is one of my main content pillar. It doesn't work so much in terms of our YouTube channel. Like when I try talking about personal branding, people are used to playing Canva tutorials, but I do have a course about personal branding, which I love. I spent almost a year developing that course, and I tell my story in it, so I love it. So let me start like this. One of my favorite DJs is a French guy called Laurent Garnier. I don't know if you know him. It's not very well known by non-Frenchies, but he's one of the king of techno. And he has a hit song called The Man with the Red Face. You are the man with the red cap. So tell us, how did you come up with that, like that gimmick that is completely part of your personal brand today?
I feel like so much of what you see on my page is because of my love for Superman from like when I was a kid. And that's why the red and blue, like you see that all the time. So every now and then you'll see me with a blue hat and it might be like jarring, like, what's he doing? He's got the blue hat on today. But in my mind, it's all part of the same brand because it's the red and blue. And I think, you know, if I were to look at it from how I might explain branding and putting a color palette together for another brand, I don't even know if I would recommend doing what I did, because I just did what I like, you know? But when you look at the designs that I create, a lot of them are more minimalist. Like I create really clean designs, and I've started to kind of like branch out to give people diversity, but it's almost like there's this weird juxtaposition of what you see behind me versus what you see on my Canva profile, where it's like super clean and modern. And so I probably wouldn't even advise other people to do the same thing, because like from a branding perspective, you want to think about like, yes, this is good for the things that you like, but it's really about your audience. Like what kind of colors would inspire or draw the kind of people that you want to work with? Those are the people that you're keeping in mind. When it's a personal brand, it's probably more like this, right? This is just who I am, and you're going to attract this vibe. Like your vibe attracts your tribe, right? That's what they say. So I would say like that's kind of where it came from. Was I just like started wearing hats, and you can see the progression on my Instagram where it was like I was just wearing hats, and then I kind of started to get a little bit more clear about who I was and the things that I liked. And so it became like the red and blue hat. It just like, it became a thing.
How many red hats do you have?
I actually only have, I think I only have two. Yeah. So probably need to wash them.
And then you will be selling this one for like $1 million.
On eBay, yes.
That's cool. So you clearly understand the importance of building a strong personal brand. Can you break it down to us? Why is having a memorable personal brand so important nowadays?
Yeah, I think it just creates a connection with your audience. And I've seen people that they talk about their dog all the time, and it's like a specific kind of dog, like a French bulldog or something like that. And their audience, when they're out, you'll see them comment like, "Oh my goodness, I saw the cutest French bulldog and it made me think of you." So that's what you want, right? Is you want to be top of mind with whatever it is that's a part of your brand. You want it so that when people are not looking at you or around you, but they see something like that out in the world, that they go, "Oh my goodness, it made me think of you."
Yeah.
That's what real estate agents do all the time, right? They want to be known for a certain thing. I want to be the first person you think of when it's time for you to buy your house. For me, I want to be like one of the first people that you think of when you have a question about Canva. And so finding ways that you can create that connection with people is really important. And I've had like Hadass, our mutual friend, who's a Canva verified expert. She was somewhere random and like saw a shop with a mannequin that had a red hat. She took a picture of it and sent it to me. So yeah, it's like those little points of connection that you can create with your audience that are going to help them feel even just a closer connection with you. As many of those as you can have that make sense with who you are, I think is important for a personal brand.
I once read a book by Jay Baer. I don't know if you know this guy. He's an American marketer, like keynote speaker. His book is called Talk Triggers. And it's really about creating a talk trigger. Like, for example, you are in an amusement park. That's one of the examples he gives in the book. And in the amusement park, lemonade is free everywhere. So you could go to any food stall and just get some free lemonade. And when people write in a review about the amusement park, they very often mention the free lemonade. That's a talk trigger. So your red cap is a talk trigger. My glasses is a talk trigger. Like, do they have lenses? Do they don't have lenses? Why? So it's a talk trigger. And it's a very subtle but smart marketing strategy so that people remember you. You become memorable for that one accessory, one experience you provide to your audience. And I think strong brands have these talk triggers. So I think you completely understand that. And even though you might not call it a talk trigger, you understand that, yeah, that one object makes people remember me. And I think creating a personal brand is about that. It's about being top of mind in certain situations for certain topics. And this requires a lot of consistency, a lot of repetition, a lot of like being the same, being consistent, basically. So when you show up every day with a red cap, then you're being consistent and people remember you. So yeah, I think that's very strong. What else would you say is important for like when you're building your brand? Like we talked about consistency. We talked about this maybe one accessory that will help you stand out. Do you see any other ingredients that are important for a strong personal brand?
I think like your tone of voice too, that matters. So of course, like the visual stuff matters, but like, what is your messaging? Like for me, like I want to keep things light. I want to have fun and I want to encourage people. Like to me, it's about being kind. So when I see people in the comments, if they're like, dogging on Canva and it's like a disrespectful kind of a thing, or maybe they're not dogging on Canva, but they're dogging on the people who use Canva. Like I'm not about that stuff. And so it's very rare that you will see me like push back against people in the comments. But if it's something like that, to me, that's a core value of like, be kind to other people. Even if they're using a different tool than you, it doesn't mean that you get to disrespect that person. So, and I think that my audience has come to see that like, that's my vibe. Like we have grace for other people. And there are times where we have to stand up and speak against someone that might be doing something or be a part of the conversation where someone is bringing disrespect into the conversation. So I think that's also a part of your personal brand is not just like the red hat, but like, what's the red hat saying? Like, what is his vibe? What is his messaging?
And his values, the values underlying. Because a brand is built upon values. And then, yes, there are the visual ingredients, the artifacts that come and embellish the values. But the core is your values. You mentioned being kind. You mentioned humor a bit earlier in the interview and being helpful. So these are values. And I like that because they are pretty similar to my values as well. as a content creator, as a brand. I think there's nothing better to teach other people than to make them laugh. And I think we both agree on that. So yeah.
Yeah. When I was a pastor and I would preach, one of the things I always tried to do is bring in as many illustrations and always have a point of laughter, because if I can create a connection where you laughed at something, but the point is drilled into your brain, like you're going to remember the funny illustration, you're going to remember the message because of the funny illustration. And I would have so many people that would walk up to me like at the end of a message or something like that, and they'd repeat that line. But what that showed me is like they're going to remember the point that went along with the thing that made them laugh. And I think that that's what we're doing as educators and content creators as well, is like the whole edutainment thing is like, if you can deliver a piece of content that triggers a certain emotion, whether that's joy or inspiration or encouragement, it helps to cement that point in that person's mind.
Yeah, not only cement it in that person's mind, but also differentiate yourself from the rest of the educators. That's something I see a lot on Udemy with my Canva course. Like a lot of the comments that I receive on the course are about me being funny. Like it's fun learning with you.
I love that. That's such a good compliment.
Yeah, it is a good compliment, and it's a great differentiator. And so I obviously did that on purpose, and I kind of exaggerate the jokes and then push them. But yeah, it does work. So it could be that as well, like a differentiator.
And it's naturally who you are. Like you are a naturally funny person. So a content creator tapping into who they naturally are doesn't mean that they have to be like, woohoo, like party and jokes and whatever, but like find that thing that makes you uniquely who you are. And that's going to resonate with people.
Definitely. And it's not for everyone. For example, Diana, she's not funny in her videos. And she always like, I'm always like pushing her like, but be more funny. And she was like, you are funny. Yeah, I'm not funny. So yeah, she's something else. She's just calm and serene, and people mention that.
Yes.
Her content. Me, I'm just like the silly guy. Cool. Well, let's move on. I have 3 more questions. This one is my favorite one. So both of us have a history of catching Canva and Canva's founders' attention at some point in our career. Okay, me, I did that with my community. At the beginning was one of the largest Facebook groups about Canva. I had this early course on Udemy that was a success. And it was about rap songs that talked about Canva. And these songs led you to being invited by Canva to fly to Australia to perform at Canva Create, their main live event. Tell us about that. That's a pretty amazing story. I want to hear more about that.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a wild adventure for sure. And it did just start from singing about the things that I love, and this has been something that I've done for many years. I actually have written songs about Doritos, and I've written songs about Krispy Kreme with no intention of ever hanging out with these people. Just like the song was like, I need Doritos. And I talked about every flavor that I like in the song. It was complete nonsense, but it was just because I write about the things that I love. Mm-hmm. And so Canva just became one of those things. And like I said, it became like this mutual connection with my audience where they're like, I love Canva too. Mm-hmm. And so I started creating content. And the first song I wrote was I think it was just called Canva Love Song. And it was just how much I love Canva. Yeah. And then I followed it up with a song. Actually, the first one I wrote, Mel ended up commenting on it. And she was like, my mom sent me this video. And I was like, I can't believe that Mel just commented on my video. Like, that is insane. And like that one went kind of like viral for me. And then the follow-up was Canva Paradise. It was to the tune of Gangsta's Paradise. And so Canva, after that, they started saying like, man, like you're starting to get like a following at Canva. Like people know who you are now.
At this time, so I noticed it from the inside. Like people were talking about that song.
Yeah, it was crazy. And so they actually, when they were planning their event for Canva Create, they reached out and said like, hey, there's 2 ways we were thinking like maybe you could be involved. One would be like, you host like a virtual party thing that's happening there from the States. Or the second option is we bring you out to Australia and like have you do a panel. And so that was the initial invitation, was that there was going to be some kind of a panel or something. And then it changed to like, hey, would you perform Canva Paradise on stage? And I was like, heck yeah, let's go. And so then it changed a little bit because, even though it's parody, there was some concerns about like, well, from a copyright perspective, like what can we do? What can we not do? So then it became more about like writing a song specific for the event. So they were like, the theme is the future is visual. Can you write like a song around that? And I was like, yeah. So it happened very quickly, Ronnie. It was like within a couple of days, like the song was done. And then there were a couple like revisions that we made. So I was about to fly out. I think I finished the song about 2 days before I flew to Australia. And it takes about 24 hours to get there from where I'm at. So, and then Australia is like 15 hours ahead of me. So it's like, I'm like flying. What was I flying into the future? Like I lost a day. Yeah. So like 24 hours to get there. Plus I lost a day. So I got there. I was like, what's happening? What day is it? And so I had only, and like, I'm on the plane, like trying to make sure that I get this song memorized, and because it had only been just a couple of days between finishing it and performing it on stage. So one of the most embarrassing moments, like I knew who the team was, but I had never met everybody. Like there's like Mel, Cam, I know, and Cliff I had never met. I don't even know if I had like seen a picture of Cliff. I'm not sure.
It's not that front public facing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm there and I'm like at the event, we're at rehearsals and I'm meeting everybody and I walk out of the green room. And at this point, like I've been meeting a lot of people and shaking hands with people and they know who I am, but I'm meeting them for the first time. And so this guy walks up to me and he was like, hey man, shook my hand. I'm so glad that you're here. Like, I love your work. I love everything that you do. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. What's your name? And he was like, I'm Cliff. I was like, oh no.
That's funny.
I was like, oh, you mean like the guy who like, started this whole thing? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I know who you are.
That's funny.
I'm pretty sure my whole face turned red, but then being able to just meet the team and the performance and like meeting guys like Jimmy who were helping to organize the whole event. Like I honestly felt incredibly blessed, like walking around Sydney and being at like Sydney Harbor and seeing all of the different beautiful landmarks and stuff. I was like, I cannot believe that I'm here. And I cannot believe that it came from writing silly songs about how much I love Canva. Like it was just a surreal experience for me. And then that led to, even more collaboration. So we did the event. It was so much fun. I had a blast. And then they reached out a few months back and said that they were going to be doing like a brand campaign. So they were going to do just streaming radio. So like Spotify, Pandora and stuff. And wanted to know if like I'd collaborate. And I was like, again, heck yeah. And so I wrote this song and they'd already had the instrumentation. I just had to like write the track, like write the lyrics. And so I went to the studio, recorded the song, and then they loved it so much. They were like, hey, can we actually change the usage and do like streaming TV as well? And so I've had so many people, like friends and family, who were like, I just heard you on TV. Did you do a commercial for Canva? And I was like, oh yeah. So that's been like, unreal. Cause again, I never thought like that was never like a strategy. It wasn't something that I mapped out or anything to have this, like there was no strategic way of like getting in with Canva. It just all happened so organically. Yeah. And I feel like that's hopefully that's an encouragement for other content creators that like, you don't really know where your journey is going to take you. Like following your passions and talking about the things that you're passionate about could end up putting you in places that you never dreamed that you would be.
Yeah, I got goosebumps right now because this is so true. Like I have a very similar story, which I'm not going to repeat here, but it happened similarly to me. And like you said, it's not something that's premeditated. It's not something that you plan meticulously. It just happened because you wrote a song that you thought was funny at the time and that you just enjoyed it. And then it picked up and it snowballed and it landed in the hands or in the ears of the right people. And sometimes there's a bit of luck. Sometimes it's just like meant to be. But in your case, it worked out perfectly. And because of all the other groundwork you had done, like you had a solid presence, you had like this experience with the Canva creators, you had the right vibe for Canva to work with you. So all of these elements, these seeds that you planted, they turned out to be this wonderful experience. And so I think that's a very amazing message for people watching us. Nothing is impossible. Like literally, you could be working with the biggest brands in the world, even if today you're just getting started. We live in that kind of a world where opportunities arise because the technology is here to level everything up. So there is no more, you need $1 million budget to make something of yourself in this world. No, you need a microphone, a camera, and maybe a computer. And that's it. And you just need your creativity, your hard work, and your consistency, and you can make it happen.
Yeah, be willing to put yourself out there. And man, people need to hear your story. Like, where if people want to hear the whole story, like,
Okay.
where can we go? Where can we find it?
My personal branding course is the best place to go. I'm sure there is a video on the channel where I explain that, but in a nutshell, it's very similar to you. Like, I had this Facebook group that was growing and I was creating tutorials for the group. I had my Udemy course that was also popular. So basically, I was just taking care of these Canva communities, and with a lot of passion, a lot of energy. I was showing up, I was answering every single comment. And then gradually, a lot of Canva people started joining my community on Facebook, and I didn't know who they were until one day I see Cliff Albrecht wants to join your group. And I was like, I know this guy. Like you, I know this guy. And so I accept him in the group. And then you know how on Facebook you have these welcome posts where you can, in your group, you can tag the new members of your group. So the funny thing is that Cliff, there were 3 questions to get inside my group. One of them was, what's your level of proficiency with Canva? And he answered, average. And so I was like, what? Average? I know you. You're trying to get in here incognito to see what I'm doing here. So what I did is that I tagged him in the welcome post. So I said like something like, hey, this week we have the honor of having Cliff in the group, who is one of the Canva founders. So everybody clap your hands for Cliff. And then I tagged him in that welcome post. And so he kind of had to, because everybody was like, oh, Cliff, wow, amazing. Well, welcome to the group. And so he answered like a couple of these comments. And also the next day I received like a messenger message like, hey, Ronnie, love what you're doing. We'd love you to work at Canva. Just like, let's talk. And yeah, that happened very quick for me as well. We had a Zoom call on a Monday. On a Thursday, I was in a plane to Sydney to go check it out. And
wow. Oh my
like,
goodness.
Like they gave me, like, it was a season opener as well. So they gave me a slot at the season opener. It was not as big as Canva Create. It was more like internal at this time in 2020. And I landed in Sydney, dropped my stuff at the hotel, and then was taken by Zach directly to the venue. And yeah, it had already started. People knew me. Hey, you're Ronnie, right? The guy from Facebook, YouTube. And I was like, yeah. And then I had my 5-10 minutes of presentation. Like they asked me to do a little presentation of who I was and like my community, my course. And yeah, I did that in front of the entire company. Mel was sitting in the front row looking at me, and I was like doing my jokes that I prepared in the plane. So yeah, very similar to your story. That's why I had goosebumps earlier, because it reminded me of my story. So again,
I love
like
that so much.
It's not planned. It was something that happened because of the hard work, because of your dedication to your passion. So yeah, that's the lesson I want people to go home with today. Like, you can do it too. Like, if it happened to us, we are nobody special. Like, we're just hardworking content creators, professionals, and that's it. Like, you show up every day and big things might happen.
Oh my goodness, that's a soundbite right there. Clip that.
That's a short.
Post that.
All right, I think I'm going to leave it here. Roger, what's next for you?
Oh man,
Yeah,
I mean,
the pinnacle. What?
yeah. What's next? I think just more of the same, to be honest. Like, I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing, but what I've started to see is that there's more opportunities right now for things like brand partnerships, but then also just to teach. And so I've found that I really enjoy it. I actually really enjoy teaching, especially if I can do like an in-person or a virtual workshop with a team or a group. So probably going to be like more courses, more templates, more brand partnerships. That's what's going to be coming up here in the next few months for me.
Okay, that's awesome. I think you are a great teacher. And yeah, I think your style must be put out there for people to enjoy, because it's really cool. What you're doing is really cool. I'm super happy to have you on the show with me today for Pro Tips. I hope you guys also enjoy this. If you do, you know what to do. Hit the like button. Follow Roger on Instagram at @mysocialdesigner. There will be a link in the description. Check out his templates also on Canva. There will also be a link in the description of this video. And yeah, I leave the last word to you, Roger. What do you want to say to people watching?
I would say, if I could leave any content creator out there with a message, it would be trust yourself and be yourself.
Amazing. Clap for that. Thank you, Roger, for the time. Really appreciate that. And yeah, I hope you enjoy everything, and we will catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks for sticking around until the end, guys. I hope you got as much value from this conversation as I did, because this was pretty awesome. Also, let me know what you think about this podcast format in the comment section below. Do you like it? Do you enjoy listening to the entire conversation versus some edited snippets of it? Let me know in the comment section. This is going to be very useful feedback for us to continue evolving this series. And that's it for today. I'm gonna leave you with our Pro Tips playlist so you can listen to more interviews like this one. I will see you guys in the next video.